Now it gets interesting. Let's head to your part of the country, Aaron. Florida, sunny Florida, the Sunshine State, for what can only be described as the toilet bowl. Two teams that desperately need to prove that they can, well, that they'll be different this year, but they are approaching it from different ways. As we'll get into, Miami's roster is actually shockingly good here. By the way, guys, I'm talking about Miami, Florida. Toilet bowl's a bit unfair because it's in the swamp. It's huge brands. Miami's real, my ACC favorite. Florida should be better this year. It's going to be a great game. But Miami, ACC favorites, they have to prove that they can overcome just bumbling inadequacy, right? Like Mario Cristobal's tenure in Miami up to this point, you know, when you watch an infomercial and at the beginning it's in black and white, and you see somebody failing to do something incredibly simple. It's been an infomercial 2 years for Cristobal. It's now time to get to the second half where we show you the product that's going to change your life, the product that's going to stop making you look like a bumbling fucking idiot. And for Mario, that's this roster, and that's Cam Ward. Now, for Florida, it's just survive. Everything you can to survive. You know, for Billy Napier company, we just got to stay afloat, lads. And the best possible way to do that would be to start in the swamp like they did a couple of years ago against Utah and beat a team that by years in will be like was much better than them. Yeah, so I think there's no doubt that we'll feel Miami was better than Florida the same way they did with Utah, Florida a couple of years ago, but they stole that Utah game at home. Can they do it here against Miami?
Well, it's at home, and you are going against a quarterback that is very talented in Cam Ward, no doubt about it. The gem of the transfer portal when it comes to quarterbacks this offseason. Miami had an absolute home run with him, but it is his first game with a bunch of other transfer players, on this roster. Like, it is very talented, and Chris Paul's done a great job recruiting. He's done a great job in the transfer portal, but it's a lot of new faces working together on the road, hostile environment. First game of the season, ain't no preseason, ain't no working out kinks. You're thrown to, I would say, top 3, top 4, hardest places to play in all of college football. And it's week 1. Those fans are going to be pumped. It's 3:30. It's the first 3:30 SEC game on ABC. That place is going to be freaking nuts, man. There's a lot of new
I'm gonna
people
miss that
and new
music,
places.
though, Aaron. That's gonna be really weird with that game on and not hear it.
Really weird.
And it's probably gonna. What is gonna be the Big Ten game? I wonder. Sorry, I'm being a bit ADD here. I wonder who's going to besmirch that wonderful. As long as it's not like Rutgers, Indiana. No disrespect, Kurt Signetti. You know we love you. As long as it's not like Rutgers, Indiana, that's fine. Give me a Big Ten matchup here in week 1, and we'll get over it.
We'll figure it out.
That's weird to think about, though. So this will be the first 2:30 ABC.
2:30 Central ABC game. Yeah. So I think the atmosphere is going to be absolutely incredible. Can Cam Ward go in there? He's played enough football games to understand what it's like playing on the road. So but is there a little bit of a slow start? And if this being an LSU guy being there, when teams start off slow and things aren't going well, it only ignites the fans even more. It gets them louder and louder and louder and louder. So hopefully Miami, for their sake, starts off with a hot start and things are working perfectly. We'll see. The one thing that is on their side too is the fact that Florida's defense wasn't very good last year. And that's an area of concern heading into this year. Once again, how good is this Florida defense? That's the big question mark, because I think you and I talked about this a few weeks ago. Florida's offense was good last year. And I think their offense is going to be good this year. I think the offensive line will be improved. I think Graham Mertz will be even better than he was a year ago. I think Eugene Wilson's one of the top receivers in all the SEC. Running backs, we'll see what looks there. But the offense will be good.
Didn't their running back get hurt?
Yes.
The main guy they were relying on?
Yeah.
The guy that
they were trying to
play? I don't think so. He's trying to make themselves feel better after Etienne leaves. Yes, Montreal.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about Miami, though. A hot start would be great because it probably means that you bury Florida. I think upsets happen when the underdog jumps out to a lead and then has to try to will themselves to hold on for the rest of the time. I think we have to sit here. We're gonna do a game preview. It's our first time seriously talking about Miami this offseason. We've told you all offseason, we know they have good recruits. They have good recruits. We haven't actually talked about it. Miami, if you look at Pro Football Focus and you looking at the top 10 units in the entire country, right? What school has a top 10 O-line, a top 10 D-line, et cetera? Miami has top 10 units at
Mm.
running back, wide receiver,
Ooh.
offensive line, and defensive line.
Mm.
All of them. They got Damian Martinez from Oregon State at running back. They had 3 wide
Stud.
receivers that had at least 800 yards last year, led by Xavier Restrepo with over 1,000, one of the best slot receivers in the country. Their O-line is led by a couple of true sophomore superstars, couple of vets, and then they brought in an Indiana transfer to play center who graded very high. On their D-line, how about this name? Reuben Bain Jr.
Mm.
He put together as a true freshman the highest pass rushing grade by a Power 5 true freshman since PFF started tracking this in 2014. Here's who he compares to. Myles Garrett is number 1 on this list. Reuben Bain is 2nd. Harold Perkins 3. Nick Bosa 4. Dexter Lawrence 5. All those other guys make tens of millions of dollars in the league right now. So and that's not even getting to adding Tyler Barone from Tennessee, Simeon Barrow from Michigan State. The talent is actually out of control.
Yep.
And none of that's even getting to Cam Ward.
Mm-hmm.
Bruh, if Mario Cristobal cannot get it done now, there is no hope. This is a Miami team that should win the ACC. And the Swamp is challenging, but it's actually the perfect test for them. Because if you can't go in there and show that you've grown and you've changed and it's going to be different, then I think we're probably just due once again for same old Miami. Although what we just said about Clemson remains true. If you lose to Florida, it doesn't actually mess with Miami's playoff chances that badly.
It's a significantly worse loss, though. It is a significantly worse.
That's true. But in the age of auto bids, it doesn't matter as much because you don't have to impress the committee, maybe to get at large, but they can still go win the ACC and get in. But 100%. I will not believe that they are capable of that if they lose this Florida game.
They're the better roster. I think they have the better quarterback, better running back, better receivers, better defense. They are the better football team. The only thing that is going to cause them to lose this game is just first game jitters on the road with some new faces in key position. That is it. You put this game on a neutral site, I think they I wouldn't say handily win this, but they win the game comfortably.
Yeah.
They win the game comfortably.
I
think Florida fans have to bring their A game to make Cam Ward feel it a little bit. But Miami's a better team. Miami is the better football team. And if they go out there and do win on the road, I'll say this. If they do look convincing, and Cam Ward is as good as we think he is, and the defense is as good, I may say next week, hey, after week 1, I do think Miami, you and I both predicted them to be our ACC favorite to win it. I would feel a lot more confident, as they should too at that point.
You know what's crazy? I found some interesting numbers on Cam Ward where in throws under 2.5 seconds, so when he's hitting his back foot, decision made, he's getting rid of the ball. He's like a top 5 graded passer in the entire country. But when he tries to extend and use his legs a little bit and tries to put the team on his back, he actually becomes one of the worst quarterbacks in the entire country. So it's a situation where I actually think this is great for Cam Ward going to Miami because he's not going to have to feel as if he has to put the entire team on his back as much as he did at Incarnate Word and Washington State, where he just had to run around and try to make things happen. Like, he has a great running game, like we said, a great offensive line, like great receivers that in theory he should be able to lean on and take some of this off my back and let me do what I do best. If Florida's going to win, it's, to your point, Aaron, it is Graham Mertz, right?
It's Graham Mertz, and it's. I think it's also, can you find a receiver number 2? Last year you had Pearsall and Eugene, and you couldn't just focus on one or the other. Billy Napier does a great job, covering his games, watching the games. The offense is always moving. Like, there isn't a play where someone isn't shifting and motioning and finding a way to get match up. So, like, all eyes will be on Eugene Wilson. He's the best player, I think the best offensive player in the game on both teams. Where does he line up? How do you move him around? How do you get him on linebackers and safeties? And then if you get that, is he get double team? Is he not? So, like, Miami knows this. They're not idiots. Eugene Wilson is their guy they're going to feed, especially if Montreal is not playing in the football game. How do you get number 3 the football? What do they do to counter that? Do you double team them? What things do you do? And then for Florida, on top of that, who's that next playmaker? Who is that next playmaker?
You got to find that
next
too,
guy? You have to find that number 2 guy.
If there is a weakness on Miami, it is the secondary.
Yep.
They brought in transfers, but none of them were particularly high graded. It was the problem last year. Like, that's the place to attack. Florida has a good offensive line. But also, like, Florida's defense is terrible. Terrible. Like, Miami's offense, if it doesn't work with Cam Ward and, like I said, a top 10 O-line, we have a top 10 running back, we have a top 10, I just don't know. It's done. Oh, how about this? Florida's defense was terrible. And don't forget, they lost Princely Umanmielen. They lost their best pass rusher to Ole Miss. They lost 2 of their top 3 corners to the transfer market. So I don't see it. I like Miami.
Yeah. RW Tyndall in the chat says, how will Cam Ward play against an SEC defense in the swamp?
I think he's going to be
like
fine.
We just said. This defense is not Georgia. This isn't Alabama. This isn't Texas. Florida has a long climb to improve from where they were a year ago, and I just don't know if they have the personnel to do that.
I know I mentioned the Utah game from a couple of years ago. I'm not sure that Florida's as good as they were then. I think Graham Mertz is better than Anthony Richardson in like traditional quarterback play.
Yes.
But like as a team, I think Florida's pretty down. If Florida has another losing season here, and that'll be 4 in a row, that'll be the first time since the Great Depression. So they're in a trough right now.
Well, this is a must win. This is a must win.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, it kind of is for both teams, honestly. I think Miami's got to have this, dude. I think Miami's got to have because everybody expects Florida to suck anyway. I would argue it's more for Miami if you had to choose. I see why you say it's a must win for Florida because again, every game kind of is because they have to just win enough to survive.
Yep.
But I think Miami has to prove to people that this year is going to be different. And if they do, what a launching pad of confidence that would be for this Hurricanes team that just hasn't quite believed in itself under Mario Cristobal up to this point. So
I'm with you.
Look, man, Miami. I like Miami.
I like Miami. I'll take it. I'm with you.
The U back officially. I'm calling it. Mario Cristobal is the Steve Sarkisian of this season.